Today on the channel, I'm going to be discussing and reviewing everything about the new Brat documentary. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and like I said in the intro, today we're going to be discussing and reviewing everything about the new Brat documentary. And as you all may know, if you've been following me for a while, I love everything from the 70s and 80s. I'm just extremely captivated by it, and I love everything about it. So when I found out Andrew McCarthy, who's been in countless movies like Pretty in Pink, St. Elmo's Fire, Weekend at Bernie's, we're starting a new documentary about 80s Hollywood called The Brat Pack, it immediately caught my attention. And if you don't know what the Brat Pack is, essentially the Brat Pack was just a group of young kids and teenagers that were stars in early 80s Hollywood that just blew up in popularity. If you've seen movies like Weird Science, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, most of those actors in those movies were the people that were part of the Brat Pack. And the whole name of them being called the Brat Pack all started with a magazine article. And on the cover of that magazine had a picture of Judd Nelson and Emilio Estevez, both just kind of laughing and smiling back and forth. And in that article, it basically said that all those teen actors were all overrated and should stop being in all the same movies together, and basically they're not taking their job seriously enough. And that immediately affected all the morale and mental state of all those actors that were dubbed in that involuntary group called the Brat Pack, ultimately leading to some of the actors' final careers in acting. Now, the entirety of 80s Hollywood and the teens that were in these countless movies like John Hughes and Steven Spielberg, they weren't all affected. The main people that were heavily associated with the Brat Pack were Molly Ringwald, Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, Ali Sheedy, Andrew McCarthy, and Rob Lowe. Granted, it didn't affect all of them. Like Rob Lowe and Emilio Estevez still acted after that in the 90s and early 2000s, and relatively, very seldomly act today. But like Andrew McCarthy and Judd Nelson, it just kind of ended. And when this took place, a lot of young actors immediately assumed that they were part of the Brat Pack as well, and other people wanted to be part of it as well. They didn't see it as a threat or an insult because they thought it was like, oh, that's the cool kids in modern 80s Hollywood that are getting all the fame and success. And a lot of fans and viewers saw that Leah Thompson, Michael J. Fox, Tom Cruise, Kevin Bacon, Anthony Michael Hall, Matthew Broderick were also part of that group, but they weren't. They were like the Brat Pack adjacents. In the early 1980s, it was kind of hard not to find a teen film. The main goal of Steven Spielberg and John Hughes was to make timeless classics revolved around teens to make it cemented in history and well known today. And I think they succeeded a lot more than they thought they would. And particularly in 1985, the whole teen Hollywood thing decided to just boom and erupt all of a sudden. With movies such as Back to the Future, Teen Wolf, St. Elmo's Fire, Breakfast Club, and then the article came about. And it's specifically heavily based around one movie that happened in 1985, St. Elmo's Fire. A majority of the actors that I named in the beginning of the video that were the Brat Pack were all basically in that movie, and it started to kind of get old with reviewers and just kind of the public. Their rise in fame and success started to meet the eye to a lot of critics, and they decided to strike back with an article called Hollywood's Brat Pack. And if you watch the actual documentary, you can see Andrew McCarthy going up to people like Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, kind of just getting their perspectives on what happened and their thoughts during that time period and when they were labeled that. And the amazing thing about it is they haven't seen each other since then. Andrew McCarthy hasn't talked to Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe in such a long time that the connection they have being in this group that they didn't know they were even put in before this, it was just absolutely amazing. And to hear their different perspectives on it was just extraordinary. Rob Lowe used it as constructive criticism. Emilio Estevez just kind of took it to heart, but knew that it was going to affect something in the future, whether it be bad or good. And Molly Ringwald and Judd Nelson decided not to even show up on the documentary because they wanted to leave in the past and just focus on the future, which I completely understand. And it was mainly the descriptions the article gave the people, saying that they were overrated, overpaid, not taking their job too seriously, just kind of getting old. It heavily affected their mental stability and kind of morale for acting, and it kind of drove the fun, friendly actors that they were all hanging out with, having parties with, kind of drove them apart. And whenever they were in a movie, if they were getting hired, say Emilio Estevez was in a movie and one of the counter actors was Andrew McCarthy, they would kind of turn down the script or not even show up to audition because they knew that they were going to be labeled that and be like, okay, it's going to be the same movie again, same actors, same plot. They didn't want to be associated with that anymore, so they just decided to do other roles that didn't involve them in it. And because they turned down script after script because it was the main Hollywood actors of the time, the 80s teens, it kind of drove their careers in acting down the plummet. And Andrew McCarthy said that he was actually pretty scared that he didn't know what was going to happen after, what his acting career was going to end up being, how people were going to think about him after different movies he was doing. They pretty much all labeled it as bad besides a few exceptions. And towards the end of the documentary, Andrew McCarthy actually gets to meet the person that actually wrote the article and came up with the whole idea behind it. So he kind of walks in, just sits down and asks him a bunch of questions saying, what was going through your mind writing this whole article, and what sparked the idea to even create it? He said the whole thing started when they were at a party at Sammy Davis Jr.'s house. They were all there, all of the main Brat Pack actors were there, all having fun, having a drink, just kind of laughing and just wandering about. And he kind of left the party after that saying, he's like, the Rat Pack. It'd be kind of cool to do something about 80s Hollywood teens, especially that group. So he says, the Brat Pack. That'd be cool. And he said he didn't view that as a bad thing. He did it as a comedic purpose and to do it as a joke. And the actors that he labeled did not take too kindly to that, obviously. And when Andrew McCarthy heard that response back, he was like, that really affected our lives and our careers in acting, and the things that we wanted to do kind of stopped just because of this one article. And when he asked if he would ever take it back or he felt guilty about it, the author said no. He said he wouldn't take it back. He said that was one of the biggest accomplishments he's had. And he does feel bad that it hurt their careers, and he does feel that he could have been a little bit nicer. And when Andrew McCarthy was interviewing Leah Thompson, who's been in like all the Back to the Futures, Howard the Duck, etc., she said something that actually made something make more sense to both Andrew McCarthy and me as a viewer. She stated that that article and the decline of the middle of the 1980s of the Hollywood was the end of old Hollywood and the start of something fresh. The kind of the end and scrapping off of the old teen movies and starting to something that will evolve into the new Hollywood. It's just absolutely insane to think about the history that went on and everybody's insights and perspectives about what actually happened in that time period. And all those films they were in, the legacy and the importance that shaped 80s Hollywood as we know it today, and it even shapes our knowledge of what we do in Hollywood today. Those films and those actors were the epitome of 80s and entertainment. And Emilio Estevez said something interesting as well. He said it was historically relevant in the reputation that happened, meaning it was a good thing and a bad thing that their careers like slowly kind of just perished, but it let their reputation realize like, hey, that's 80s Hollywood, that's the guy. After the documentary, they eventually just said that it was a good thing and a bad thing, even though all the constant drama and stuff that was led behind it was a good thing and a bad thing for their careers and reputations. This documentary was absolutely incredible, and I definitely recommend to anybody that they go on Hulu and they go and watch it right now. If you love everything 80s, entertainment, and the pop culture of that era, I definitely recommend that you go and watch it as soon as I finish this video. Now it's time to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this whole review, and if you'd like, go and watch it and tell me your guys' thoughts on it and tell me what you think about it. If you love everything rock and heavy metal and love everything from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, definitely subscribe. This is the channel for you. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.